Mr. Ryan, welcome to the Horticulturalists.
Welcome everybody to the Horticulturalists.
And it might look to you as though we're by the side of the road. In fact, we are.
We are indeed.
Why is that, Mr. Ryan?
Because we've come to engage with a particularly beautiful tree.
And it is a particularly beautiful tree.
Yes. It's a birch.
Yes.
But it's not a classic birch.
Yes.
Most birches, as people know, are white-trunked, and that's why you plant them.
Yeah.
This is actually a quite rare species of birch.
Yes.
And its name, for those who know their Latin, gives it all away, or at least most of the game away.
Okay.
It's Betula elbow-sinensis septentrionalis.
Okay. Say that again slowly. The first bit.
Or it's Betula
No idea.
elbow-sinensis.
Now, albo tends to mean white.
Yes, it does.
Sinensis Chinese.
Yes, exactly.
I am almost a Latin scholar. Are you stunned?
Yeah, I am, but where does septentrionalis come from?
Sept means seven.
Yeah. Yes, well, in fact, septentrionalis apparently means northern.
Oh, so northern, white, Chinese, birch.
Easy as that.
Easy as that.
And of course, once you can say the name without sort of slurring, stuttering, whatever, you'd get elected as president of the garden club.
Okay, so what is so special about this tree, other than the extraordinary bark?
Well, that is the main game, the
Yeah.
bark. It has this beautiful bark that sheds in great big pieces that peel off over a period of time.
I see. It's like paper.
It
Look
is.
at that.
It's a wonderful bark. In fact, a friend of mine made me a little music box and used this as a veneer.
Really?
On the music box and varnished it. It's absolutely beautiful. So it cleans its own trunk by removing its own bark over a period of time.
Annually or?
Yeah, more or less. Well, almost constantly actually. It
Yeah.
seems to have bark disappearing almost the whole time.
Wow! Look at those striations. It's stunning.
They're called lenticels.
Oh, lenticels.
Yes, they're lenticels.
As in lentils.
Yeah, no, not quite.
Lenticels.
Trees breathe through their lenticels to an extent.
Oh my goodness! So
So there
let's
you
look
go.
at the tree-breathing lenticels. These
Yes.
little lines here.
There you go.
Stunning. Okay, so we've got the bark.
Yes, the
Yeah.
tree also has pleasant foliage. It's
Yeah.
it's bigger than a classical silver birch,
Yeah.
but of the same sort of ilk.
Yeah.
It's a nice soft green in the summer.
Yes.
It goes a lovely bright buttery yellow in the autumn before it sheds. It gets quite large catkins, which are the flowering forms on a birch, a little
Yeah.
sort of droopy catkin.
Yeah.
So this particular species has quite ornamental catkins, and it likes much the same conditions as any other birch. So,
Which are?
which are not too dry.
Yes.
Because birches do like a bit of moisture.
And if we are next to a babbling brook.
We are, in fact,
I don't know
next to a babbling
I
brook.
don't know if you can hear. I'll take a picture, but there's a brook in there, so very moist around
Yes,
here.
moist aspects. They like a bit of overhead light.
Yeah.
Birches are actually pioneer species in the wild. So
Ah.
if there's been a forest accident,
Yeah.
so a whole pile of trees have fallen down, or there's been a landslide,
A
or
wardrobe malfunction.
a wardrobe malfunction, yes. If something like that happens, birches will seed into those disturbed areas and take over those areas very quickly. They'll then create shade, and then the slower species of trees
Ah.
will slowly take over from them.
That is very interesting because I would have thought the opposite. I would have thought that they were much more of an understory tree that needed shelter and protection.
Yeah, no, not so.
Not so.
No,
Not
so
so.
there you go. So a pioneer species in the wild.
A pioneer
which
species.
Does
I like
mean-
that expression.
It is a good expression.
I'm a pioneer species.
Yeah. The only drawback to a
Yes.
pioneer species is that they're not generally extremely long-lived trees,
Right.
because they sort of start the whole ball rolling,
Yep.
and then the long-term trees, the things that are going to be there in the final phases of a forest, will then slowly take over from them.
Interesting.
So the conifers, the oaks, that sort of thing.
So, what is the life expectancy of this?
Most birches, if you get 70 to 80 years out of them, you're doing quite well. I mean, they'll outlive us, it
I was
doesn't
about
matter.
to- well,
Some of us.
I'm a slip of a thing. Climatically, then, so it needs to be a fairly moist aspect. It needs
Mm-hmm.
fairly good lights. We are in reasonably high altitude Australia.
Yeah.
In a climate that gets mild frosts,
A bit of snow.
bit of snow.
Yeah.
So how tolerant are they of weather extremes?
All right, well, they won't go to the higher extreme levels. They won't go into really hot, dry areas.
No.
There is no point in sort of Western Victoria trying to grow birches because
Or
it gets too dry.
A Mediterranean climate.
Yeah, yeah. So,
Or a tropical one.
or a tropical one. So conversely, they won't grow in a climate where you get really, really sort of steamy, hot tropical conditions.
Yeah.
But they're very cold hardy. I mean, they come from northern China, so therefore they'll cope with Siberian type conditions in the
Right,
winter,
right.
but they won't cope with the really extreme heat of the Australian summer.
Now, look, I understand why perhaps in Australia they're not that common, but there are lots of parts of the world where it would be very easy to grow and at home.
Oh.
Why is it not much more common?
Well, look, I think you'll find that it is used quite a bit in British gardens.
Yeah.
I've seen it quite a lot in Britain. I've seen it used in gardens in France.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that there's plenty of people in North America that are growing this particular species of
Mm.
birch. But it does, it's one of those trees that isn't quite what people expect it to be within a genus, and so it's not something people will automatically assume they should be asking for.
Right.
So, you say birch, you think white bark. You
Yeah.
say Daphne, you think pink flowers and perfume.
Yeah.
You don't think of the other extremes within the same genus.
There you go. And this is why God invented you.
Oh,
So,
is
you
that
know.
what it is? Yeah. And I mean, it does prove the point, though, that people should be really careful that they don't dismiss a whole genus of plants just because of the characteristics of a well-known
Of the most
species.
common.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, that is so true. It is a beautiful tree.
Yeah. And I have to say, I can take credit for this tree.
Well, I was going to say, this is the other reason why we're by the side of the road. It's because you consulted on the garden and
Yes. And
on the planting of these.
yes, I did, in fact.
There's a group of them over here. We'll go and have a look.
yeah, good.
They really are the most beautiful trees. You can see them through there.
They are stunning trees, and I hope people have been really excited by seeing such an unusual birch, at least in Australia.
Yeah, and the babbling brook.
Yes, the babbling brook
It's
as
very
well.
calming, very calming. Well, thank you, Stephen. Those trees, I've never seen them before, and they're really beautiful.
They are.
And so not that difficult, as long as you're in the right kind of environment. So not too dry, fairly strong sun, not extreme heats.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that will
that's
limit
quite
it, yes.
limiting. But
Yeah,
anyway.
yeah.
But no, that is actually a lot of climatic types and garden area.
And
type.
look, anywhere you can grow a classical silver birch, so if there's one around the neighbourhood,
Yep.
then there's a good chance you'll be able to grow the Chinese red birch as well.
Chinese red birch, or
Betula albosinensis septentrionalis.
there we are. That is what's known in the trade as a mouthful.
It certainly is.
Thank you for watching The Horticulturalists. We will be back next week with
Yeah.
another fabulous adventure.
Of course we will. So please like and subscribe.
Yes, leave a question. I, of course, will not be able to answer it, but Herr Ryan will, because he is the guru of all things. And until next week, who knows what we'll be doing, but
Cheerio.
see you later.